Welcome to another episode of Game Boy Roulette, where we take a look at randomly chosen games from the Game Boy library. Pokemon Blue, and thus it finally happens. So, how exactly do we go about this? Pokemon isn't just the biggest franchise in Game Boy history, it's literally the biggest franchise on the planet. Games, cards, shows, movies, plushies, you name it, Pokemon has it. Hell, as I write this, I'm playing Pokorogue in the other window. I still remember vividly being on a field trip in 5th grade, a friend handing me the Game Boy with this hot new game called Pokemon, and being blown away by it, and begging my parents to get it. I got Pokemon Blue and picked Squirtle, because obviously it was on the cover, thus it was the best choice. And since then, I've owned every gen of Pokemon games. And while of course there's plenty to nitpick and criticize about the individual games, I still have so much fun with them, as do hundreds of millions of people around the world. So yeah, how the hell do I review Pokemon Blue? The answer is simple. We ask the eternal question, how does it hold up? Because yes, Pokemon Blue and Red, of course, were important games, the start of a legend. But also, Game Freak has made adjustments to the franchise over the years that have improved things considerably. Reusable TMs, getting rid of HMs, Psychic type not being fully broken, crits no longer being tied to speed, just lots of refinement of the base game mechanics. So this episode is going to be less a review of Pokemon Blue as a whole, but more a discussion of the many changes that Pokemon has undergone since the first game, all while taking a lovely little nostalgic trip all the way back to Pallet Town. Maybe catch a Pidgey or two along the way. Do I even need to show the box art? You've seen it. Everyone remembers the vibrant blue hue, the awesome Blastoise, the gotta catch 'em all tagline. It's arguably the most iconic box art ever. Oh, and Red is equally iconic. I won't be reviewing both, though, for pretty obvious reasons. The time has finally come. Let's start our journey with Pokemon Blue. Oh, man. This takes me back. I cannot skip this scene. Too much sentimental value. Why Jigglypuff, though? I always wondered that. Bonk. Yeah! Pokemon Blue version! Yay! Hello there, welcome to the world of Pokemon. My name is Oak. People call me the Pokemon Prof. I always wondered why Nidorino is the one they choose here. Like, I'm okay with it, Nidorino's cool, but of all the Pokemon I've seen, it's a weird choice here. What's my name? Obviously, no joke here. And the rival, sacrilege to call him anything else. Yeah. You know, looking at the original Pokemon game, it does, for the time, look very nice. There's a decent amount of detail. I'm playing the SNES. Okay, it's time to go. It's one thing I love that each generation they update what system you're playing. Is the potion in here? Yeah. Hi, Mom. Hey, Mom, I'm 12. It's time to leave. I think I'll just walk into the grass. Hey, wait, don't go out! You need your own Pokemon for your protection. I know, here, come with me. Meanwhile, Ash is still sleeping in, and he gets stuck with a loser Pikachu. Young-O was a serious Pokemon trainer. I'd love to see a game that covers where you can play as Oak when he was a trainer. I know Pokemon doesn't really do that, but I can dream. Yeah, shut up, I don't care. I need my Squirtle right now. Which one is Squirtle? No. Yay! After birth, its back swells and hardens into a shell, powerfully sprays foam from its mouth. I received a Squirtle. Do you want to give a nickname? Of course I do. Squirtle's just a little guy. Oh right, this is back when they only had a couple different avatar images for the Pokemon. And so Squirtle just looks like Kirby. The first time you battled in Pokemon was just mind-blowing. Like, there's so much stuff to talk about here in terms of updates they made to the game, but this one is just so... Oh, I'm never gonna win the competitive Pokemon scene like this. Is there a competitive Pokemon scene for Gen 1? I genuinely don't know, but that'd be really cool. So the battles went a lot slower in the first gen, which is funny because I think in later gens the battles take longer due to more animation, but these still feel very slow in comparison. Oh, thank goodness. No XP bar, no XP share. There's a lot of just little things that they have iterated on each game to make the series better. And I know it's easy to make fun of the new Pokemon games, but I still think they all do stuff really well. At a baseline, all these Pokemon games are fun. Do I get my first Pokemon balls yet? And now let's take our first step into the Pokemon world. Pidgey. Rat. If you look at some of these sprites, some Pokemon have changed a lot over the years. Rattata is not one of them. It has basically always been the same. While this isn't a bug, one of the big things that was an issue in Gen 1 is how completely overpowered Psychic type was. So the reason for that is because in this gen, there's no special attack or special defense. It's just one stat, special. Which means any Psychic types that used special attack were also just defensive powerhouses. Also, they had no weaknesses. Psychic is weak to Pidgey! Oh god, that looks... I forgot how dead Pidgey's eyes were. Psychic was weak to Bug and Ghost, or supposed to be anyway, because Dark type didn't exist yet. But due to a programming error, Psychic is immune to Ghost in this game. And Bug type is so weak and has so few moves that it's essentially a non-factor. I would get so much fun out of just walking around, talking to people, discovering stuff in the Pokemon world, and I feel like that's something that every game has improved on. Like I said, Scarlet and Violet, for all its issues, had such a fun world to explore. Grandpa's drunk again. But, like, so many changes from this game have improved the Pokemon experience. To the point where, when you have a game like this, and then a game like Fire Red and Leaf Green, in a lot of ways, there's no need to play this one anymore. Everything that this game did, Fire Red and Leaf Green just did better. Now, does that mean, never play this game? No. It is, I guess, oh god, really? The best reason to revisit these original Gen 1 games is for the nostalgia value, and to see how far the series has come. Story apropos of nothing, but back when I was a kid, I used some tricks and exploits to get to the truck next to the SS Anne, and then you had 6 Pokemon with strength, used it on all 6 of them, and tried to push the truck to get Mew. And you know what? It wasn't there. None of you give me Pokeballs! They must have started that in Gen 2? It's fun to come back on this game. Has it held up? Kinda. It's still generally fun, but you notice all the jank, the weirder sprites, all the quality of life stuff you end up missing very quickly. But it's still a fun revisit. It's fun to go back and see how it all started. Back when Dark, Steel, and Fairy type didn't exist. Back when there were only 3 evolutions. Back when critical hits were tied not just randomly, but to your speed. Seriously, that is a messed up mechanic. Do you have Pokeballs? Oh, right. I never knew that potion was there. I can't get far in this game, as, RPG rule with Game Boy Roulette. But I've been able to play enough to say, yeah, it still holds up. It has its issues, it has its weird oddities, but it's where all of Pokemon started. And I feel like we can all appreciate that. It's just what started a whole, phenomenon, I guess is the best way to put it. And it's fun to revisit. Is it as good as some of the future games? No. In fact, I'd say it might be, in terms of gameplay, one of the weakest Pokemon games. But that's fine. It all had to begin somewhere. And remember, hold right in A. As a kid, I was convinced holding right and A was how you catch the Pokemon. And you know what? I still think that. Kanto is exactly as I remember it, for better and worse. Let's be honest, there may be no game more nostalgic in the world than the original Pokemon games, and going back to play the same one that I began with the same starter, was just a wonderful feeling. The game for its time was pretty amazing. There had been a lot of RPGs before it, but nothing quite like Pokemon. The good graphics and music, the idea of building your own team from monsters, searching for new and rare Pokemon, keeping track of type advantages, exploring the region, it was like a perfect storm that practically guaranteed popularity. It set the standard for what the Pokemon series would become, perfectly laying the groundwork for each subsequent game to be built on as it turned into an absolute phenomenon. But when we discuss the game itself, we also have to bring up the fact that it's probably the weakest of the mainline Pokemon games. Now, that's pretty obvious, being the first one, but given all the changes the series has undergone over the years, you definitely tend to miss some of those advancements. Double battles, breeding, held items, day-night cycles, weather, all these things that would become such staples of the series, which are absent in the first game. Not that that makes this game bad. It's a trailblazer and arguably the single most important title in the Game Boy library. What it means that if you're wanting to revisit an old Pokemon game, it's likely you're going to have more fun with Generations 2 through 5. Or if you're really in the mood for Kanto, load up Fire Red and Leaf Green to recreate the experience with some nice upgrades. It was lovely to revisit Pokemon Blue. It and Red deserve to be remembered for what they began, and are potentially some of the most important games ever. But while I wouldn't say they've aged poorly, they're certainly not as good as the games that came after, that added so much more to the series. I may have to revisit this one soon, though. I just know Mew is under that truck, and I'm gonna get it one way or another. And that's all for another episode of Game Boy Roulette. Make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe to follow the series as we continue to dig through the Game Boy vault. I'm Brian J, and I'll see you next time.